Hey friends, Reverend Katie here. I'm so thankful that you chose to join us on this Sunday morning for our prayer service through the storm. This is brought to all of you by University United Methodist Church. If you're just watching this sermon on its own, there is a whole service that you can use for your personal devotion through this time of the storm and Hurricane Ida. And I hope that it is helpful and meaningful to you as a point of devotion in a time of great anxiety, frankly. And so, wherever you join us through this, whether you're evacuated somewhere out of harm's way, or if you're at home and finding yourself hearing the howling winds around you as the Sunday morning light comes awake, I pray that these words and our time together will be meaningful and helpful for potentially a long road ahead of aftermath and power outages and city infrastructure being gummed up. I'm just anticipating with the immensity of this storm that it's going to be a major challenge, not just for days, but perhaps for months to come. I hope I'm wrong, but you know as well as I do how these things go. And so, I guess where I am is this Friday night is when I'm coming to you before the storm has begun, and I'm kind of going around the house and securing different things, trying to make sure that we're taking with us anything that's necessary, like important documents or sentimental items. Things like my kids' baptism gown that they had together, and they have all of their names etched or embroidered in with their baptism date on it. Those are just the kind of things that you don't let lie in a storm like this. But I sent Taylor and Eva, Jack, and Sam, our three kids, and our golden doodle Max. It was very important that he went on the first leg, and they're going up north out of harm's way. So I'll be joining them tomorrow, and then since we have two cars, I'll be circling back probably Monday night to make sure that we can begin to assess some of the damage and help all of you as church members and community members that may need a community of faith to come alongside you in this time. So as I'm reflecting on what's about to happen and now what you are experiencing in real time, I found myself thinking about the very simple story that I was reading to my kids a few nights back called Chicken Little, or some of you of a perhaps more mature generation would know it as Henny Penny. Either way, it's some derivative of a story where a chicken, basically just a caricature of a chicken that has kind of human tendencies, speech, and all of that, had an acorn fall from a tree, hit its head, and then Chicken Little assumed that the sky was falling. And so went on a journey to be able to tell the king, at least in the Henny Penny story, there are different versions of this, but to basically tell the king that the sky is falling and essentially the world is going to come to an end. And so it's this different rotation of declaring to everyone that the sky is falling and having this animal look like he's absolutely crazy or she's absolutely crazy, and then going to hide to escape the impending doom that's about to occur. Now, I don't know about you, I mean, my kids, they find themselves in a place where they like to hide, they like to build forts, they especially like to build hammocks on my middle son, Jack's bunk beds. They like to kind of find these little hooks and things where they can lay in and hide, and it's not really readily apparent that they are around. In the same way, too, I think we as adults find ourselves in times like that, where we want to just build a fort that would assume that we're not ever going to experience pain or war or struggle or any kind of personal battle that might challenge us along the way. And human beings have this fight or flight tendency, but when we are so fatigued and so overrun with choices and pivots that we've had to make, no wonder it's a propensity for human beings to maybe step back rather than naturally lean forward into whatever challenges befall us or we find ourselves standing before. So I was looking at kind of that tendency in all of God's creation, and I did find that there is that tendency in animals too, So you can find it in this phenomenon of what they call fainting goats, right? So goats tend to have in advertisements these days, and then there's some videos going around that these goats have a really odd kind of sound that they make, and kind of a scream, if you will, that makes people laugh. But when goats are finding themselves in a place of real danger or doom, it's known that they come into this kind of catatonic state, for lack of a better word. It's known as tonic immobility. And you can see it in all sorts of animals. If you flip a lizard over, you can find that it goes limp for a time. It's this hypnotic reaction that they have. Marine biologists say that tiger sharks, that are really fierce animals, find themselves drifting off to sleep in peaceful slumber if you can gently turn them over. When any animals find themselves in a vulnerable position, they play dead for fear of being eaten, and it is a survival tactic that finds some success in different parts of our created world. Fear has a way of doing that kind of thing in general. So fear can make us run, fear can make us fight, but fear has this way of at times keeping us from taking action. Maybe fear might keep us from speaking up, or from changing our minds, or might keep us from bridging divides or helping someone out or connecting with another person, seeing situations in a different light, discerning a way forward, making simple choices like what photo album to put in the Tupperware to take with you in an evacuation, questioning long-standing but callous kind of assumptions that we make all the time. Fear, it seems to me, produces an emotional and spiritual rigor mortis in a way that can keep us from living with peace in our hearts and charity toward others. And both of those are what we desperately need right now to meet this moment. Fear paralyzes the very best in us, paralyzes that part that connects with the Spirit of God. When we find ourselves in vulnerable positions, we do indeed become paralyzed at times by fear. So when we are anxious as human beings, it is natural for us to seek out sources to reinforce that very anxiety. What have we done over the past few days? We look at the 24-hour news cycle on TV and on our phones to reinforce whatever thing that we fear that's coming directly to us in our backyard. Or we look at the situation in Afghanistan and wonder, when is it coming to us next, right? Little do we know that it's said that basically from different sources, they say the chance of a terrorist attack or occupation coming to us in this backyard is happening in our community, maybe 1 in 3.6 billion chances. And so all of these different things still do play to our fears, and it's natural to kind of ask the question, if we do believe in a God who is strong, why are we experiencing so many of these things that cause us great concern or could potentially cause us harm? Our psalm today talks a little bit about that. So you had 2 readings, one of them being the Gospel of Mark, where it shows Jesus in a boat with other boats that are all sailing on rough and turbulent seas. And then you have Psalm 46, which was a heart song for many of the faithful in Israel in a time where in the reign of the king, there were many enemies that came against Israel. And God did arise as their strength and their help with supernatural intervention in a time of trouble. One of the things about Psalms is they serve so many different purposes. And Thomas Merton said that this psalm does exactly what the Psalter should do. Merton said that the Psalter will, above all, tell us not merely what we ought to be, but the unbelievable thing that we already are. We are at the same time in the desert and as human beings also in the promised land. The Psalms are our bread of heaven in the wilderness. And so we might find ourselves in kind of a wilderness right now where you look around your shoulder and are trying to find that thing that will be your undoing and become ready to be paralyzed even in that moment as well. But this ancient poem really speaks to all of the different realities of life and how even in the midst of those, we have little reason to fear. There are these descriptions in Psalm 46 that are beautiful and actually not as far from our present day experience as we might want to admit. The earth was giving way, mountains were crumbling into the sea, waters that roar and foam. On the political front, nations were in an uproar and kingdoms would fall. But nevertheless, says the psalmist, the Lord God Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. He advises us to be still and to know that I am God. For God makes wars cease, breaks the bow, shatters the spear, and turns the shields into plowshares. The psalmist offers us a vision that God is right smack dab in the middle of the city. And because of God's presence, this city, even though it might get dinged up a little bit, even though it might not look exactly as it once was, this city, we will never crumble. God will help it when the morning dawns. And so for us, I pray that in the midst of all that you're facing right now and all that, frankly, you fear or maybe have anxiety about, the things that kept you up last night, whether they be the howling wind or the howling of your own mind and heart, don't let fear paralyze your spirit, because these are the very times and places where God needs, the world needs you to be the helper. We find God's presence specifically when we point to those that help to be repairers of the breach. And so don't let fear lull you to sleep. Don't let fear keep you unresponsive and immobile, especially when real people's lives are at stake. So no, Henny Penny, the sky isn't falling. God is our refuge and our strength, a help always near in times of trouble. That's why we don't have to be afraid, even when the world seems to be falling apart. Friends, I pray that you remain safe and that we will all be ready to roll up our sleeves and put our community back together when the time comes for us to do just that. May it be so that we have every opportunity to be a sign of God's healing, wholeness, and hope in a weary world. Take care, and I'll see you soon.